What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Indy Sooner. It's your boy JP, and tonight we have the JP and Trav show. My homie Trav to the right. Trav, how you feeling today, man?
Doing great. How could you not after that spring game showing? I'm still
Man,
on the high.
man, I'm telling you, you already know we're gonna get in more of that. And then below we have our good friend Ty from Around the Table Sports that has joined us many a time on this show. Ty, how are you feeling today, brother?
Man, you know me, anytime I can talk football, it's a good evening.
Yes, sir. And we have the man of the hour to the bottom right corner of us, Mr. Late Kick Josh of Pate State. He agreed to come on with us tonight, and I know Sooner Nation was chomping at the bit to. I've been teasing them, and so I know once they see you're in here, they're gonna flood in here. But how are you doing tonight, brother?
Well, I'm good. I mean, not quite as good as y'all have been doing, apparently, but I'm good. Like on a scale of 1 to Oklahoma spring game, I'm like an 8.
That's all right. That's all right. It's rarefied air up here, so you can't. You have to have your 8s to really appreciate these scale all the way to its peak.
Yeah. And that was wild, right? I mean, just the entire atmosphere from the outside looking in, I think it really encompasses what makes college football so special. I mean, you talk about how many people there have a lasting impression from that moment. I mean, I can't wait to get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we're already there. So let's just start with it. Obviously, Travis, you were the one that was at the game. So we'll just start out with you, man. What was the atmosphere like? Obviously, I would have liked to be there. I had my own things I was doing, but what was it like to be in a 75,000 person spring game, man?
Man, it felt like almost a burden had been lifted off of the fan base. I know Josh had touched on a show talking about attendance of spring games. There's very few things that a fan base can do to really show investment, things like that. I mean, we had people from. I know people say, "Well, there's nothing to do in Oklahoma." We had people from. I mean, if we did a full blown map and actually did the research on it, I would think we'd have people from all 50 states that came. I saw people that I hadn't seen in years. I mean, it was like how I imagine after the blip happened, after Thanos snapped half the population away. After that 5 years, when everybody returned and they were giving each other hugs and everything, we weren't sure, man, I'd never see you again. That's almost how it felt because it was such doom and gloom whenever Lincoln Riley hit the door for a little while, for a couple weeks, that man, coming out on the other side of it, it was like nothing I've experienced in Norman, as far as just a positive buzz, the timing of everything. Baker, maybe the most beloved Sooner, definitely the most beloved Sooner of my lifetime. He's getting the statue. We've got new offense, new defense, the head coach. I don't think we would have seen such a big jump if this would have been Brent Venables' first game after Bob Stoops. I think it had to have that added element of, we know that, Lincoln Riley is going to be watching this. We know that USC's got ESPN at their game. We need to show out. And I think that was part of the motivation of a lot of people, was kind of that, doing it in spite of the national stories.
Yeah, you look around the nation and Oklahoma's dead, right? I mean, that seems to be the theme amongst analysts, is Oklahoma's dead. And whenever you get this, it's just a complete indication of the buy-in from a fan base. And I think that that's incredibly unique given the circumstances Oklahoma just faced. Travis, I think you hit the nail on the head. I wrote down the blip because I loved that, right? Because I think it's so on the nail for what happened. There was such a fear as to what could come for Oklahoma football, a program that's been so synonymous with success for so long. I mean, for all of our lifetimes, all we've known Oklahoma is a successful college football program. And so seeing what could have been, then seeing the Brent Venable hire, and now you're seeing the fan base so excited, that spring game was a justification for all of the excitement that we've heard about up until this point. And then you actually get to what happened on the field. And in which case, I think a lot of people were expecting Oklahoma to come out there flat on both sides of the ball, and you just didn't see that. This was an inspired spring game from the play. And look, the spring game play is spring game play, but it does give you an indication as to how your team is moving along with all of the new. And I feel like that excitement resonates in all area of Oklahoma football. It's just permeated so well right now. And look, the halftime speech was just awesome, right? I mean, it really, the buy-in at Oklahoma from all levels is palpable right now. And it's just so cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh, I know that obviously a lot of us have seen your takes on the spring game, but maybe for some of the people in the comment section who haven't, how do you feel about the Oklahoma spring game?
Well, on the national level, anytime two things really trigger people. Anytime you have a spring game attendance figure that pops, or anytime that you do something in recruiting early in the cycle and you're rated high. There's this defense mechanism that kicks in. It's like it's primal in a lot of college football fans. And they're either going to tell you spring attendance doesn't matter, or they're going to tell you recruiting rankings don't matter in August, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, you never explicitly said to them that they do. You just said that your team's ranked higher right now, or you just said this is how many people we had at our spring game. Obviously, the defense mechanism is born out of insecurity. So there's a lot of that around college football forever, and there's specifically a lot of it as it relates to Oklahoma right now. And so it's almost like someone is overly willing to finish the sentence for you. It's like you don't even have to start the sentence before they tell you, but Brent Venables hasn't proven anything, but they don't give out awards for spring games, but you don't win a game for that. So like you never suggested that, nor did anyone else. Believe it or not, and I give anyone permission to run with this headline, it is okay to just be excited about your program. It is okay to just not worry about what the outside world feels about you and just enjoy things amongst yourselves, because they're going to keep score this fall. And so there's going to be gnashing of teeth every failed third down conversion attempt. It's okay in the spring to just wave the pom-pom, high five each other, go tailgate, and also understand that, you know, if I'm Oklahoma, I'm sitting there looking at Brenton Venables and saying, oh, he's my guy. Like, he's one of us. And I haven't always said that, even about the previous regime. I was happy because we were winning, but it's a little extra. It just adds a little something extra. Ask Arkansas fans. Like, ask even South Carolina with Beamer, who overachieved last year. It's just something different when you have the puzzle pieces go like that, especially naturally. It's not a forced fit. Like a lot of, I don't think I need to specifically name names, but a lot of coach program, it's kind of like a forced fit. It's not that at Oklahoma. So I watched it and I gave the old hat tip, good for them. And then I would have left it alone. But then when a lot of other people started running their mouth, then I felt the need to use the platform in a good way.
Man, we appreciate that. I mean, we'll take the good news anytime for sure. I think one question I have for you off the top of my head was, are you a fan of anybody in particular? I don't know if I've heard you express fan, and if maybe I missed it, but do you have a college football team in particular?
Yeah, it's Oklahoma. As of the next 35 minutes, it's Oklahoma.
I knew that was coming.
I love it.
That's right.
Trav, Ty, you guys got anything?
Man,
Yeah. Go ahead, Ty.
well, I think one of the things that, Josh, you've done this so long, and you just have this grasp on the landscape of college football. Off the top of my head, I can't think of too many teams that you can just feel the excitement off of a new coaching staff like this. Can you remember a few teams off the top of your head where there's an analogous excitement around the fan base, around the program, around the players that we're experiencing right now at Oklahoma?
Yeah, well, the examples are recent. I think when Mel Tucker came into Michigan State, you immediately felt this. The rest of the country didn't buy in. And, you know, even after last year, maybe the whole country hasn't bought in. The point is, that's fine. It doesn't matter if someone in like Denver, Colorado buys into what's happening in Michigan State. It can happen with or without them believing in it. Like I just said, Shane Beamer at South Carolina. That got laughed at. At least it got giggled at by the rest of the country, but they didn't really care because it's one of their guys. But you also have some cautionary tales. Like I remember when Will Muschamp got hired at Florida, folks were over the moon excited about it. When Charlie Strong got hired at Texas. So I mean, you could go on and on. I could just like roll out a scroll. Just because you're excited doesn't mean anything. But excitement is mandatory. Like you being excited about your head coach doesn't automatically mean it's going to work out. But if people aren't excited about the new head coach, it's usually a telltale sign that things have started off on the wrong foot. I'll give you a perfect example. When Rich Rodriguez got hired at Michigan, maybe we didn't know it at the time, but from day one, he was totally screwed. because the proper folks had not bought in. Like administratively, everyone wasn't on board. He was never going to be given the keys to Michigan. And so it made no sense to hire him. Well, the inverse of that is the Brent Venables fit at Oklahoma or the Sam Pittman fit at Arkansas. Selfishly, just as a guy who does this on the national level, I hope everyone chases that, because it's a good thing to have culture fits in college football instead of the more mercenary style coach. And so, like, that's why if you want to ask me selfishly, why would you spend so much time talking about Oklahoma, or why would you spend so much time talking about Arkansas? It's because of that. Like, that's how college football is supposed to feel. It's totally different, despite what they tell you sometimes, than the NFL.
Yeah, I do think one of the things that maybe I wasn't thinking about it when we initially hired Brent, but being there over the weekend was how he bridges kind of the gap, the kind of the Stoops era, and through is the amount of players we had back. We had over 250 former players, ranging all generations, all success levels, whether guys just played a couple years and got hurt, and then your Adrian Petersons of the world and your Kyler Murrays of the world and things like that. So what was so great is they're just under the previous regime. I talked to a few players, and they felt more of, if they were coming back, it was they had been asked to come back for a specific event to help with recruiting or something where it was felt a little more like being used. Where, I mean, we talked to Sterling Shepard and we talked to Jordan Evans and we talked to a bunch of these, and they just said, we're just back because we feel like we're wanted. People want to be wanted, right? We feel like we're welcome back. We're part of the family. I mean, Sterling's like, man, I've known Brent Venables since I was 6 years old. All this, it's just part of the family fabric that you have. So those guys were so comfortable coming in. I mean, you had NFL, Pro Bowlers just walking around Campus Corner, just not be about just having a blast. And I think that was important too, because it bridges a gap where a lot of people, whether true or untrue, because I mean, we didn't win, 10 national titles under Bob Stoops. I mean, you might think it every once in a while whenever he speaks to the crowds, but a little bit of revisionist history. But people are like, man, we're getting back to the Bob days, defense, and I mean, Bob had still the highest scoring offense with that Bradford team. But it's I don't know, it's interesting because to your point about culture and everything, it's such a natural fit, not only for fans and coaches, but former players to come back and feel like they're part of the program again.
Absolutely. So another thing, we typically do on the show with any of our guests, we allow our fans to give comments or ask questions. So I know we only got you for about another 15 or so minutes. And again, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. But we're just going to allow some of these fans to ask some of these questions, and I'll pop them on here for you. One of the first ones is from our good friend Hayes Fawcett. He wants to know, when you're the president of NCAA, can he make you an edit?
You know what, Hayes? You can make me an edit before that. So why don't you DM me? You got my information. Why don't you DM me? Because I got a few things I need to work on anyway. So yeah, as I look over to the side sometimes, it's a very bad habit. There's nothing over there. There is chewed gum over here that I have not thrown away yet. That's all I got. But yes, hey, the whole NCAA thing, when that popped yesterday, when that broke, we were like an hour from going on air. And I had to fight having our graphics team just completely scrap the show we had planned and just doing like a mock show where I acted as NCAA president. But on the real, that stuff is so irrelevant. That NCAA president role is so irrelevant. It has been for a while. I think a lot of folks say it to sound like they're intellectually superior to the room, but they don't get what they're saying. So I dedicated like 15 minutes of last night's show to lead it with this. TV executives and conference commissioners run the sport, and maybe not in that order. So once you get behind the curtain a little bit, you really realize how much power TV executives hold. I was at the, what would this be? National championship game in Indianapolis. We're down there doing some pregame hits. I'm with Cannell and Dennis Dodd, and we're like 15 minutes away from going live. So we're mic'd up, but we're not on air. And looking over here, and Greg Sankey standing next to us. That's the SEC commissioner. Two other guys walk around the corner, and it's Nick Khan, who's running WWE, but also is a very, very big power player in the media world. And it's Jimmy Pitaro, the president of ESPN. So they're standing there and they're talking. And I'm thinking to myself, there are like tens of thousands of people in this stadium right now, and none of them are even paying attention. But yet this conversation right here, not even with closed caption, we don't even know what they're saying, probably carries more weight than what's happened in Indianapolis, Indiana, the last 5 years combined. Just so happens that's the city we were in, but I'm referring to the NCAA. So I don't think folks fully realize that everybody gets all up in arms about the NCAA. Those folks can't do anything. They have no power. They have, imagine trying to eat steak with your lip. This is them. They have no teeth to do anything whatsoever. If you don't like where the sport's headed and you want it turned, those are the folks that have to do it.
Well, and when you talk about who's got the power, one of the reasons we're discussing this move to the SEC and when it's going to happen, when it's not going to happen, it certainly is, one of the pros about the SEC and why we want to go is competition, recruiting, those kind of things. I mean, you can look at it.
Affiliation.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly, right. But when you look at those TV deals, the university just stands to make so much more money by being in the SEC. It never was it an NCAA thing that why we moved. No, it's a lot of money, and it almost reminds me about reminds me when a Walmart comes to a small town, and all of a sudden the town's got a lot of money. They've got a new convention center. They've got newer roads. They bought some new fire trucks, things like that. And they think, man, Walmart's this big, bad, evil thing. It's like, man, it's just, you start looking around, you're like, we got a lot of nice stuff all of a sudden. That's what that move to the SEC is. You're going to have a lot of nice stuff laying around that you didn't have before. And that is 1,000,000% because of the TV deals that are going to be with it, with OU and Texas. And people can say, especially we get this from a lot of OSU fans. We get this from Cincinnati fans. We get this from, again, Big 12 and then new Big 12 teams is, the conference has really taken a step up, especially with basketball and with Houston coming in with football. I mean, Cincinnati was just in the playoffs, so BYU's great. We're taking a step up. We're like, guys, this wasn't about just competition. Otherwise, Texas wouldn't be going. This isn't about competition. This is about the brands of Oklahoma and Texas that make up about half the brand value of a 10-team conference. You move those over, and the SEC contracts are just going to be outrageous, especially now that Amazon's getting in the game and all this. Everybody stands to make more money. So we just want to be in the fast lane when it comes to getting the checks. And of course, that's exactly why all the power's there.
Let me also just tell you what's coming. The streaming giants and their integration into college football probably is not going to happen the way that folks think it is on the surface. I know everyone's sitting around waiting on a conference to sign a deal with a streaming network. Probably what's more likely to happen is before that, one of those streaming giants or one of those tech giants ends up either purchasing a major media company, which currently has media rights to one of those leagues or multiple leagues, or they enter into a partnership with them. That's probably what's coming. But either way, so I'm from Georgia. We got Alabama. We got Oklahoma. We got a lot of people represented here who are very familiar with severe weather season. So if I told you tomorrow there's going to be a severe weather outbreak where you live, but you don't know specifically who's going to get hit, but I'm telling you, you have to choose right now. You can either choose to just stand on a street corner all day tomorrow, or you can choose to be in the most secure storm shelter in your state. You're choosing the shelter. You don't even know if you're going to need to be there or not, but you want to be affiliated with the safe spot instead of the vulnerable spot because you know what could happen. You are now putting that SEC sticker on your back, knowing full well that even though there are storms on the horizon, we don't specifically know what they consist of. We'll be all right because we're in the safest shelter there is in college athletics.
No, exactly. It's a great way to put it.
A couple more questions here. Here's a good one from our buddy Drew England. Josh, what's your favorite thing about your job?
So first off, they pay you to talk about college football, and that's it. Like early on, they asked me, do you want to be a generalist? You watch what Pat McAfee does, for example, right now. Talks about everything. I don't want to do that. I want to talk about college football. I also today woke up, went to the gym, spent like 3 hours outside. I make my own hours. There's literally no requirement. As long as you are producing, there is no requirement. You come and go as you please. The best part, though, is what you get to do in the fall. Like you get to go to the games that you either would have dreamed about being at or would have had to pay a lot of money to be at. And so they call it work, which always fascinates me. But as long as they're willing to do that and pay you, I'm willing to abide by that. But it is really, I'll tell you another good thing. When I was doing this independently, which every one of us have done at one time or another, may presently be doing it, you know how much you have to scratch and you got to claw. You have to be responsible for 100% of your resources. You've got a regular job, and then you're doing this on top of your regular job. If you can ever get to a point where you can scale your product to where it's attractive enough to where someone will pay you a little more money to do it, and you get to dedicate all your time to it, and you get to be surrounded by industry professionals and top level resources, there's no limit to what you can do. And that's a pretty new concept in our world because of the barriers of overhead and distribution that digital media broke down about within the last decade. And so you're sort of seeing the first wave. Like, I'm proud to be part of the first wave of folks that are being able to do what I'm doing right now. For example, you never would have been able to do that before, where you would have had to come up a more classic journalism track. You don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. So here's another college football related question, Oklahoma related question as well. When do you see OU and Texas officially moving to the SEC? Obviously, we heard about BYU, Cincinnati, Houston planning on moving in the 2023 to 2024 academic year. Do you think that you see 14 teams in the Big 12 for a while, or do you think we could see OU Texas move quicker than that?
I don't think it's decided. I don't think there's an educated answer on this. Talked about this a little bit last night, and this stems from conversations that we were able to have with some of the folks in the room back in January. You know, when they're ironing all this out, I'm going to use another storm metaphor. I'm stealing it from last night's show. It's like being in the tornado and trying to assess the damage of the tornado. You don't know what the EF rating on the thing is until it's gone. And right now we're in the tornado. So a lot of the folks that have to make the decisions, a lot of the folks that have to pull the lever on when that change can happen and when those moves can happen, they can't do it yet because there's so much moving around us right now. And so, like, everyone's got their guess. I don't think it's going to take until 2026, but that's just a guess. And it's not even that much of an educated guess. I'm just kind of choosing date out of the wind. But I don't think that's decided yet. And therefore, that's why a lot of folks are very quiet on it. Whereas normally you would have probably heard something by now. That's why everyone's so quiet on it. They don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to be talking about something about it, but I have no idea. But it's going to be such a big move, right? I mean, you're talking about, whenever we're talking about these massive shifts in college football, you're talking about two of the biggest brands, right? And so this timeline has always been something that's fascinated me. Just the whole last year within college football has absolutely fascinated me in terms of the Texas OU move, all the implications behind closed doors there. Really kind of, to Josh's point, highlighting the big money machine that's behind college football that has so much more power than most of us ever realized, to the way NIL has come about, to the way the transfer portal has happened. I mean, there's so much shifting in the marketplace of college football right now that it's just unbelievable to watch happen in real time.
I'm gonna jump in. Touch on two things. You talked about being in the tornado. I think that's one of the more impressive things about the OU spring game is not only do we have 75,000 people, it's basically in a tornado watch. I mean, that was incredible. I mean, I was running I had a radio spot right afterwards. I was hosting the post-game show. And I mean, there was power going out, in the restaurants, everything like that. But we got seven. That also shows you that Oklahomans aren't really afraid of tornadoes. But 75,000 people in a tornado watch and crazy winds and everything like that didn't matter. But also, we were just talking OU Texas. My favorite part, if I had your job, would be to do the, on the late kick Renaissance tour, being able to choose whatever game in the country you want to go to and be there and actually access the game. You don't get nosebleeds to every game you want to go to either. That's kind of cool. You get to get in there and really soak in the pregame, soak in before, if you're heading up to the press box, you can wait for a while. You can see a bunch of different things. Talk to us a little bit about OU Texas this past year. I know you had touched on it your show, but I know you being there, I saw you down on the field, and obviously it's an instant classic. What happened? But nobody would have ever thought now that Caleb Williams wouldn't even be on the team, and that Lincoln Riley be gone and all that, because we were so caught up in the moment. But talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I'd never been before, so I always had it circled. But this year we finally got to execute it, and everyone else hates noon kickoffs or 11 a.m. I guess I love them because I can get out that day. So I got there extra early, probably about 3 hours before kickoff. Wanted to see what the state fair setting was all about. So loved that. I actually, during the game, halftime of the game, I walked up the tunnel, went out and went into the fairgrounds for 10 or 15 minutes, got something to eat, walked back in the stadium as the second half was starting, which is kind of surreal. You're never supposed to be able to do that. So I also am pretty sure I wasn't supposed to leave the stadium and come back in, but I did. So during the game, you're thinking to yourself, how's it going to shake out? What you've predicted about the game or whatever. And then it's not one that you could ease into, especially this past year. It was just boom, 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 boom right off the bat. Ends up, I think, being the highest scoring in series history. And I just remember thinking to myself, what do you talk about? When you go watch a more defensive-oriented game, there are 3 or 4 different scenarios, 3 or 4 different exchanges that that's where this game turned. There were 19 touchdowns in this game. And there were so many different, not lead changes, but towards the first part of the game, you're thinking, all right, this is where Texas ended up winning this game. But then you get deeper in the second half and you realize they may not win the game, period. And then this happened. And then Xavier Worthy, touchdown catch. Now Texas pulls back even. And then Oklahoma's down here for a field goal. Never mind, they're going to rip off a touchdown as time expires. So then we got out on the field, and I just remember what I try and do, because I don't normally have post-game interview duties. They want me to. I just try and hide from them so I don't have to do it. So I just try and soak it in as much as I can. And I remember doing just kind of a full panoramic. I turned a couple of times, and I remember thinking to myself, if you could somehow teleport everyone to this experience right here, I'm talking about non-hardcore college football fans. If you could just have them right there, and I could have them 50-yard line, half the place is going crazy. Some of the field got stormed. If I could just take them and spin them around a couple of times, there's no way they'd leave not in love with the sport. So that's on you as a broadcast partner. I think, what did ABC or ESPN had the game, or whoever it is? That's on you to try and capture that, but a camera can't capture that. It can do so much, but I would so strongly encourage. I came back home. I texted all my buddies in the South. I told everyone, you got to get to that game if you can. And people say that about a lot of games. Sometimes they deliver, sometimes they fall short. That one's incredible.
Yeah, I think when you probably talk to your Southern buddies, if you will, I bet more than one of them probably said something about, man, it's not the Iron Bowl though. Man, it's not.
They said, well, I'll tell you the example that they used. They used Georgia, Florida, because that's the 50-50 split game the SEC has. And I've been to that one. I've covered that one several times. It's a great atmosphere. I don't think it's as good as Red River Shootout is.
No. Yeah, it's it's certainly wild. It's it's not only were there big scores. We had in the Bedlam game with Baker, the Gus Johnson Hollywood game when he said, who is this kid? Where did he come from? And him and Joel were doing the game, and that was just, man, it was bad, real bad defense and quarterbacks with big arms and really fast receivers and all that. And it felt like it was big scores, so we've been, especially lately, Oklahoma's been in their fair share of shootouts, high scoring affairs, but obviously you go back to Mahomes and Baker as well. But goodness gracious, this had the drama going. Big plays on kickoffs. You got jump ball toe taps. You've got Caleb, the drama of Spencer getting benched. Caleb, coming in at halftime and saving the day. You just had so many plays in that it wasn't just, man, these guys just, man, on the same old Big 12 defense, man. These guys just throwing it all over the yard. It was just dramatic plays after dramatic plays.
Well, when Caleb Williams came in the game, I think maybe I was getting a charge for my phone or something. So during commercial break, I went up to the media room to get some juice into my phone. So I was kind of walking back out there as he ripped that run off. Well, I thought it was Rattler. I didn't know they had even made a change. They don't announce that stuff to where you can hear it where I was. And I couldn't hear the TV feed because it was on mute. So I'm walking down there, and literally as I'm walking, he's kind of running towards me. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, man, like Rattler, they were just booing him a little while ago. Now they're going to turn again. And then you actually see, that's 13, isn't it? And then you realize what just happened. And I know he hadn't been in the game. So this has to be like one of his first plays of being inserted into the game. So then it kind of takes on a whole nother feel, because there's a huge contingent of folks who watch sports for storylines. They don't necessarily care about the X's and O's and the strategery as much as they care about storylines. Well, then that crowd got sucked in, because all of a sudden you got the true freshman here, and you've got the guy who was on all the preview magazines and the Heisman preseason list who just got benched. And the first thing the freshman does is rip off a long run touchdown. So now what's going to happen next?
The pageantry. Well, I know you got to get running here in a little bit. Let me give one more question, and then I'll let Ty go ahead. Matter of fact, you go ahead and ask a question. You got one time.
Yeah, so I got a question for you, Josh. You get one game. Someone's never seen college football before. You get to send them to one game to convince them that this is the greatest sport in the world. What game are you sending them to?
Well, we've done this segment on the show. It was that one, because there's nothing that I need them to see that game doesn't have. I get the neutrality of crowd. The colors pop. If you can get a blue sky day, which that was that day, little bit hot, but if you get a blue sky day, you've got like the crimson and cream and the burnt orange against the blue sky. The Cotton Bowl, it speaks for itself. But if people haven't been there, which I know a lot of the crowd here has, every other game I go to, especially the neutral site venues, including the one in Arlington, there are a million luxury suites. And so they're all different kinds of folks in all different kinds of seating. At the Cotton Bowl, it's just metal bleacher. And if you don't like that, stay home, give your ticket to someone else. But what that kind of environment does is it makes it so much more involved. Like everyone who's there is there without a backrest on their chair, and they're willing to sit on a metal bleacher in 90-degree heat. So these are diehard fans by nature, by default of them being willing to put themselves through that. You don't have to worry about whether they're going to make a lot of noise or not. So you've got that. You've got the state fair setting, but you've also got like a very entertaining game, a high-scoring game, and you saw everything. We just talked about it. You saw everything you could see. That's why I always go back to that when I say, how could I have ever taken someone to that and then them leave and say, this college football, it could be for me, but I just need to see more. You saw everything you needed to see. That was like a postcard of college football. And at that point, you can either take it or leave it. But if I take you to that game, I have clearly put this sport's best foot forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hard to disagree. And Travis, you mentioned Gus Johnson. One of my favorite Gus Johnson moments ever is that Ohio State-Maryland game when Denzel Ward came up and popped that receiver, and Gus Johnson said, "You got barbecue back there and you didn't invite me?" Oh, that was a great call. That was awesome.
He's epic. I don't know, man. Sometimes, especially on Twitter, will pop me like, "Yes, we got Gus," when they announce who's going to be covering the game. And some people are like, "Man, I'm tired of." I'm like, then we probably shouldn't watch a game together, because that's what I live for right there. That Mr. Rodney Anderson. I mean, just all that stuff. It makes it great, and Klatt's a good partner for him. Josh, have you ever thought about doing some of the commentary, the in-game commentary and stuff like that?
Yeah, I did arena ball back when I was in Columbus down in Georgia. Did play-by-play. I enjoyed it, but in our industry, I don't think you can do what I do and also have a career in the booth. You probably have to choose a lane there. And so I've chosen my lane. And I'm not saying that'll be forever, but I think if I were to ever get into a game day broadcast role, it would probably be more either sideline or something pre or post game. It probably wouldn't be, what we're talking about in a classical booth setting. But it also, doing that doesn't free you up to do what I really love to do. Like, I really love to get down there and just watch. I love to kind of be part of not part of the action, but be as close to the action as I can, but also interact with folks. That's my perfect world. Like, the way I do it now is pretty much my perfect world. So I'm not actively looking to change it. Who knows though? Never say never.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up the Cotton Bowl, because obviously there has been discussions to move to Jerry World, right?
No.
And those of us that have been there, that, are the diehards that go to it I think I've been to 10 of them. And it's just it can only exist here. It can only exist in the fair. You have to have wax cup beers. You got to have the Fletchy corny dogs. You got to have all that. And then you got to walk around the state fair afterwards. If you win, as this is my territory, you know what I mean? It feels almost just almost gang-like, almost mob-like. This is our territory now. You're in our neighborhood now.
That's exactly what I saw. That is exactly what I saw.
And I almost passed out walking out of the Cotton Bowl. I'm standing at the top of the steps right under the big Cotton Bowl sign and let out the most hoarse boomer I could have done. And I felt like a king. Like it was wild. I felt like the emperor. It was wild. And people just, Texas fans looking at you funny. And but yeah, that game can't move. And again, the people that would want to move it are the people that want to be in the suites, want to make it something that it's not. So, and it's really the last of its kind, with any other new neutral site games, they're going to those big stadiums. So it's the last of its kind. And man, I hope it doesn't change. There will be quite the protest. I'll go down to Texas State Fair. We'll all protest around the Cotton Bowl. We'll figure it out.
I live 30 minutes away from the Cotton Bowl, and we'll
send you first
to the Red River shootout. And when I was growing up, during that week, there was always a horse show, and I'd have to go with my parents and help them work the horse show and everything. And now I've never been, but ironically enough, I saw my first ever college football game in the Cotton Bowl because my father was a diehard Nebraska fan for when he ended up going and working on a horse ranch in Lincoln, Nebraska. All he had to do was go watch Nebraska in the glory days. And he took me to go see Nebraska against Wisconsin in the Cotton Bowl for the actual bowl game. And I mean, it's one of the coolest moments of my entire life. I mean, I'll never forget that just because of that atmosphere. It's just incredibly special. That atmosphere is unbelievable.
Yeah, Lincoln's a great atmosphere as well. And I know a guy that tries to go to games with great atmospheres. So we'll see if OU Nebraska makes your list, Josh. I'd have to look at this. I'd have to look at the schedule, but I know I'm going to be up there. I cannot miss that one. So we're excited about that. And actually, and Scott Frost was an example that I was going to use earlier when you were talking about kind of what people thought was going to be the perfect fit. Oh man, coming home, Scott Frost coming and it's just, I mean, they'll always be in the game. I think they were the best 3-win team in the country last year, and it's I think it'll be a great game next year.
Hey, one more question for you. I want to be respectful of your time, man. Again, so appreciate having you on here. Real quick, way too early predictions.
Way too early.
So Georgia fans,
I wouldn't even make this the last question because I'm not going to answer it.
Yeah. Those of you that tune into Late Kick, we don't talk playoff. You don't mention off season because there is no such thing, and playoff. We don't talk about playoff yet.
Not until I legally have to, which is I think November in my contract. So yeah, I'll
You didn't. My lawyer didn't send that over.
Damn. We get to like late August, and I kind of I'll walk in here in August, and I'll say, let's do playoff predictions tonight. We won't put any thought into it. I'll just put 4 teams out there. I could not care less about it. Number one, because I don't think there's a lot of skill in it, personally.
Yeah.
Secondly, I just don't care because it's not what the sport revolves around for me.
Are you pretty heavily in the Shane Beamer camp? Are you a Beamer believer, if you will? And with that, an extension of that, how do you think Spencer Rattler is going to do there? Obviously, like you said, he was the preseason hype. He was the going to be the first quarterback off the board, everything like that. I mean, I had talked to players that when Beamer left OU, they tried to go from OU to South Carolina and just follow him. And Shane Beamer told them all no, because he didn't want to damage his relationship with Oklahoma. Novel concept, I know. But anyways, with that, how do you feel about and the SEC obviously so tough because you can get a great coach at a program like South Carolina, and I don't care how good the coach is. It's not just going to be like, oh, now you're Alabama and Georgia. Now you're at that level, because it just takes time to get the Jimmies and the Joes and everything like that. But talk to us a little bit about what your early expectations are for Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks.
Yeah. Am I a believer in Shane Beamer? I'm a believer that they got the right guy for the moment. Am I a believer that he will take South Carolina and turn them into a contender in the SEC East? The percentages say no. Of course, there is a needle that you can thread that changes that. But when I look at what South Carolina should do, I do not apple to apple them to Georgia, like you just said. A lot of people do. A lot of people judge success or failure of who we hire at South Carolina based on, is he going to beat Georgia? Look, if Georgia is at full strength, South Carolina shouldn't beat them. That shouldn't be happening. If you can pull it off, that's gravy. What South Carolina should be able to do is they should be able to win 8 games. And then anything more is incredible. What Steve Spurrier did there was incredible. And so,
or something like Ole Miss this past year. It's you're in the West,
sure,
or you're not going to perennially be at Alabama's level or even close. But every once in a while, you might knock them off, but you might get to 10 wins and win all the games that you should win and a couple that you shouldn't.
That is what they haven't done. Like they have not beaten Kentucky. They don't beat Tennessee as regularly. And I'm a believer that they are capable of that. So am I a believer that he can do that? I think they're going to recruit very good athletes. I do think they're going to turn South Carolina into a destination for kids in that state and in, let's call it, a 4-hour radius around there. But Spencer Rattler, to me, is the great unknown because I get a wide range of opinions on him. Like I was talking to a coach the other day who thinks he won't make it through the season as the starter. And then I've got other folks who say, no, he's a solid upgrade from anyone they had there, which was my retort. Like, if he's not going to make it through, who's taking his job? So
they got another walk-on. Got a little what was it, a grad assistant or whatever that was playing last year?
The problem with them this year is they won 7 games last year out of nowhere. And this year, they may be a dog in up to 7 games. They got a brutal schedule. They do every year. And so, like, I'm looking at it and I'm asking, what if they go 6-6? Because there's a path where South Carolina goes 6-6 this year and has a pretty good year. There's certainly a 7-win path where it's a successful year. And yet I don't know if it'll be judged by that just because there's a certain contingent who believe you are what your record says you are. And that's not always the case in this sport. But be that as it may, I know it's a long-winded way of saying I don't know, but I think they've got the right guy for South Carolina. Whether they ultimately become a contender and perennially overachieve, too soon to tell.
Right.
Well, man, I know you said you had about a certain amount of time, so if you got to run, feel free. You can stay, that'd be awesome. But man, I appreciate having you on here. Was a big favor to me, and I know you've expressed love for what Ty does at Around the Table Sports. So it was fun to get you on here with him. Ty, you got anything you want to say, man?
Man, I mean, I was just over the moon to see you. I told you when we were on the phone, Josh, I've looked up to your work since before I started the channel. And, you talked earlier about being independent and doing this and having to grind. And that's absolutely true. But it's something that I've found that I just love the grind to it right now. Having been in it a year, done 680 videos in a year, it's just it's an unbelievable opportunity to even be on with you. So it's awesome that you took the time to be here. I
appreciate it. I appreciate it probably more than most people even would above and beyond because I know what this is about. So I didn't, like I said, I didn't come through that typical track. That whole grind thing, though, there may be people watching this that have no affiliation with media whatsoever, but they're doing something on the side. They got a side hustle of their own. If you ever get to the point where you truly embrace that grind as part of your process and you don't even think about it as hard work anymore, you're set. Because at that point, the rest of the competition you have will just filter themselves out because most people can never get to that point. That's why I don't ever look to the left and right of who am I competing against. It's not even about that. Number one, in the digital media age, the idea of cross competition is totally irrelevant anyway, but that's a whole side note. Number two is if you can ever do that, you're just going to find yourself naturally working at a harder level or at a higher level too than most of the other folks who are going to become preoccupied with life or going to be drugged down by it or not going to be invested 24/7, 365. So that stuff, and it never is easy. Like there's a there's a song out here in Nashville, I guess nationally right now, by Maren Morris, and one of the lyrics in it that I think it was recorded in this building actually was, "Thought when I hit it, it'd all be different, but I still got the pedal down." That stuff never changes. You just get a new set of hard and a new set of issues when you get to a higher level. But yeah, I appreciate that. And I know that in the next 5 years in our industry, there will be dozens of opportunities. I believe this. There will be dozens of opportunities for people from the truly organic, grassroots, independent scene to be given an opportunity on big national platforms just because of the way the industry is evolving.
Hopefully, man. That's the end goal. That's the end goal, is to try and make it onto something larger.
You'll have to download the KREF app, because on the 13th of May I'll be starting 3 hours every Friday. So we'll do. I know it's old school. It's terrestrial radio. So I know it's not digital necessarily, but anyways, you'll have to pop over on there. That's my side hustle, is radio. So I got this whole.
I know it very well. That's exactly where I started. Hey man, live radio is the best repetition you can get. And if you're doing caller-based radio, it is the best interaction you can get.
It's so much fun.
Man, it's awesome seeing everybody just sharing their side hustles and sharing their stories, man. It's amazing to be here with you guys, all three of you. I look up to all three of you in different ways and respects. Most of you know, and Josh, I'll let you know, this is just, I'm just a fan, man. I'm an athletic director. That's what I do. That's my passion. But I just come on here and try to talk some OU football with my buddy Trav, and, see what it's turned into, and gotten to know Ty. And again, man, just that you would even take the time to come on here is huge for me, and I know for Ty and Trav. So thank you again, man, for real, from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Yes, sir.
We'll have to talk about audience rent another time. I know I've talked with JP about it a bunch, and then Ty just wants to learn everything he can. He showed up with his notepad. We hopped on a Zoom call and we talked about the NIL space and audience rent for an hour or something like that. All kinds of stuff. So we'll have to talk about that a little bit as we continue to grow. We're working on a big deal with iHeartMedia, one of those big media conglomerates that controls the world. So
everybody's looking for it. There's a lot of shelf space, and there's not enough content right now. There's not enough high level content. So yes, standard is the key word. Standard.
Yeah. It's like Talib Kweli said when they were talking about the ciphers and everything like that, and they're like quality is still profitable. Lyricism, everything is still profitable. Like it's not about being underground or being in the digital. It's not. It's just how is your content? How if you're talented, if you've got the quality, if you work hard enough, if you've got the quality product, then it's profitable no matter what avenue you take. Talib Kweli reference. I wasn't expecting to, but we got it in.
The range.
I'll tell you what.
My word. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any more questions,
Josh, you have any questions for us?
There you go.
Boy, now that catches me off guard. No one ever asked me to ask questions.
Yeah. Hey.
Boy, I'm blanking. I'll have one for next time. I can tell you that.
There it is. There it is. Well, cool. Joining us next Wednesday, we've got Josh Pate.
There you go. Hey, should I eat this chicken or this fish when I get off here? That's the big question.
Yeah, right. I had a little steak myself. Had to cook it up, but no doubt we've got. Are you hopping off, Josh? Or are you gonna stick around a little bit longer? We got questions.
I got another call in about 3 minutes, so yeah, I'll have to hop off.
Okay, cool. Well, we appreciate you coming on, man. We'll be in touch, no doubt.
I appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Man, how cool is that?
He's the best. He's the best in the game. Simple as that.
Man, we got him for 45 minutes. That's pretty dope.
And that's the thing. It is very true when it comes to, what's the best part of your job. I mean, if I were to win the lottery, I would make one of the things that I would spend money on would be to make sure that I could do what he does. Go to any college football game I want to every week, but I still wouldn't be able to do it because I don't have the access that he does. I guess if I won the lottery, I could start my own damn media company and then, hire myself and be like, hey, I need credentials for, Travis Skull Sports. We're the nation's leader in only going to one college football game a week. So, but no,
Yeah.
it's
When he tweeted that the other day, I couldn't agree with that more. The whole, like, if I won the lottery, this is exactly what I would be doing. I mean,
I still got to work the next day or whatever.
yeah, I mean, Indy knows this, and I think Trav, I don't know if we talked about it, but like I was, coming out of undergraduate, I was pretty set up for a pretty successful career in law,
Yep,
just
law,
based
yep.
on law firms, and so this was a huge chance for me, is just deciding that this is what I wanted to do. And some days I'll wake up and do 10 videos and just publish them periodically throughout the week and stuff. But I mean, if I hit the lottery tomorrow, I would just continue working to try and getting with a 24/7 sports, or getting with one of these organizations to have my own show there. Like, that'd be the end goal. Nothing would change for me. It was awesome getting to talk to him. I can't thank you enough for that, JP. That was incredible.
Hey, no problem at all, brother. I know that he has a big impact on you. And like I said, I just took a shot in the dark. I said, yo, come on with the two of us, with the three of us. And the fact that he responded, I know you and I talked the other day about it. It's hard sometimes to get a hold of him. And I'm just glad he responded, and I'm glad he came on. It was dope. It was amazing. But yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what both of you guys have been talking about, if I had a something that I'm as passionate about as being an athletic director, it would be doing this. And it's why I decided to start a Twitter account, a YouTube channel, and to finally go ahead and go on with it, especially when my dad passed away. I was like, okay, now, I'm gonna go, all in as much as I can, obviously. But yeah, I can't think of anything that would be better than hanging out at college tailgates, different experiences, even as an OU fan. Like, obviously I want to go to a ton of OU games, but just being able to go to different experiences, like a cocktail party, like a River Rivalry, like the greatest game in college football, even though that's just what it's called. I don't believe it's actually the greatest game in college football. Ohio State and Michigan. All these different rivalries, getting to hear these stories, spend time with people, and you get paid to do it. I mean, eat good food, right? Like, I go to Baton Rouge in a heartbeat, get some crawfish, some gumbo, something.
Hey, I'm going to Baton Rouge for the Ole Miss game.
Come on now.
Gotta go see my boy Jamar Kane, who I was defending today on Twitter. And
who was after Jamar Kane? Well, for what reason?
Yeah, well,
Jamar threw a jab out there, knowing what he was doing, because because Perion's been all over every podcast and even told some potential employers that, bad-mouthing the previous staff, saying they didn't use me right, they didn't do this, that, and the other. And so that kind of, when people move on, it's easy for the fan base to be like, oh yeah, they sucked. And like, this is, the coaching wise, I should say, yeah, they suck. They didn't do this right. They didn't do this right, blah, blah, blah. Right. So they kept on hearing, well, they didn't use Nick correctly. They didn't use Nick correctly. Well, now every GM, I talked to Jamar, every GM he had talked to, every coach, because Jamar's got a bunch of, he's been in football long enough and coaching long enough. He's got a bunch of guys that are linebackers coaches in the league, or they're, defensive coordinators, you know what I mean? Like, they all know each other, and, are head coaches in the league. And all of them to a T are saying what Pioli said in the Good Morning Football piece. He said, from Nick Benito, we keep hearing that you're a unicorn because your skill set, you can do, it's so unique. You can do everything. You can bend, you're fast, you can drop back in coverage, you understand different schemes and different, all this. And like, when people kept saying that, and I've been talking to Jamar, they're like, yeah, they want to complain about us dropping him back, but that's that we put that on film, and now he's going to get drafted, because of it. He said. So, anyways, he put a tweet out there when that Good Morning Football show, or when that Good Morning Football tweet went out, with that interview. He quote tweeted and said, "They said we dropped you back in coverage too much. They said, we didn't use you correctly. Anyways, see you Friday." Because all the former players, like Isaiah Thomas invited him to his draft party because it's here in Tulsa, and then Nick Benito offered or is bringing him down to Fort Lauderdale to be at his draft party and all this. And I'm like, Benito would tell you himself, like, this is why I'm going high in the draft, because I know how to do all these things. I mean, is it freak athlete? Absolutely. I mean, was he highly rated coming out of high school? Absolutely. There were a lot of guys rated highly out of high school that aren't going to be going as highly as Nick Benito is. There's guys that are higher rated than Nick Benito coming out of high school that are not going to be going where Nick Benito is. So it's not just God-given talent that made it work. So, so with that, they talked about how I was talking to him today. He's like, the thing about the combine is it verifies the tape. It puts a stamp on the tape, because in the draft process, they all watch your games. They watch film on you. They don't just replay your combine over and over and say, okay, that's when you play football. It's, hey, this guy looks fast on film. Let's actually get an official 40 for him. Hey, this guy looks like he can bend. Like, let's actually have NFL guys put him through drills. Like, hey, this guy looks like it's basically just backing up the film. That's why you can't just go into the combine and you've never played a down of football before, dominate the combine, and then go to the NFL. That's not how it works. And that's why a lot of people that didn't go to the combine or didn't perform in the combine still get drafted. So anyways, he knew what he was doing. That's why he called me, because people start arguing and I went down. I can't let people talk about my friends. So, anyways, he called. He was like, "Man, sorry, I had to throw that little jab in there." I was like, "God dang it!" I was like, "You knew what you were doing."
He's a hell of a coach, though.
He's a great coach, and that's the thing. Like, he would have. Like, they were still talking about him coming back. It was just like Ted Roof, excuse me. I was off by a letter. Ted Roof, coming in, and he's going to be defensive coordinator, calling the defense, all that. And then you've got Venables, who's already a linebackers guy. And then it was just, and now they have an actual defensive ends coach specifically. And then you've got, by the way, yeah. And then you've obviously got Bates in interior. So, like, also the way they call a defense, because like he was outside linebacker and defensive ends coach, and what I like, I'm like, he didn't go out to USC. Like, he went to LSU. Like, he didn't want to be out at USC. So anyway, people that come after Kane, I do not have time for him. Or I guess I did have time for him today, but I don't want to have time for him.
Time for him today.
Because we'll definitely
normally don't have time for him. I'm the one that normally got time for him. Chad gotta.
I got time for the Kane haters. You throw like Bryson up on the timeline and like all these 18 follower USC fans or Texas fans and all that. I'm like, or now Cleveland Brown fans. You be throwing those guys on there. I'm like, dog.
I can't. It's like an itch.
If there would have been a way because originally Kane was going to be defensive ends coach under Grinch, but he wanted linebackers so he could work that edge, and he wanted outside linebackers because he wants to be a defensive coordinator. With linebackers,
it's a more linear path.
Yeah, it's a much more linear path, and because of you have to call so much more. I mean, you get to see so much more of the defense. You got coverages. You got all the different. You
literally account for every facet of the defense with linebackers. Yeah.
And I don't think it'll be a very long time before Jamar is a defensive coordinator. So,
yeah.
I'm sorry, dog, just straight up bull rush. But did you see that? That you could put that on tape. That was a first round bull rush she did through this door.
Who? Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, she's got it figured out. I can have the door closed and she'll just walk right through it. And now she's back behind me tearing up her toy.
Oh, your dog. That's cute.
That's a first round bull rush right there.
It was funny. It was it's because you see all those compilations of people now that we've moved to like remote everything. Like it's like you see babies running in, you see dogs running in, you see the one like viral video of like the dog running in, and then he gets out and like all the kids run in, and then the wife has to come get everybody out. Like that cracks me up. That's immediately what I thought of.
Yeah. Luckily, I guess it played it off pretty smooth. JP didn't even realize it.
I didn't even.
I
really
saw it out
didn't.
of the corner of my eye because Josh was talking when it was happening. I was like, I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, oh shit! And I think it was my question, so I was still trying to pay attention to the answer. But
I don't
God.
know. My whole face just went.
Hey,
Right.
which dog did it better, your dog or Baker's dog on this podcast? That's the real question.
God, that was hilarious.
That's tough. That's tough. Maya's smooth with it. Maya's a smooth criminal. So I'm gonna tell you something about this dog, right? So none of my buddies, yeah, here she knows. She knows story times about her, so she's coming up to argue it. No, you don't. So we go and get Whataburger, right? It's football season, so we put all the Whataburger up on top of the refrigerator because I have a buddy who came down from A&M all the time to watch all the Saturday games. He'd drive from A&M to Denton to just watch the games with me and my roommates.
Man.
Well, he didn't believe us that if you got a certain burger, she's going to get it. Like she's going to make it hers. We put all the bags of Whataburger up on top of the refrigerator, went outside for 15 minutes, came back in. All the bags were still up there. We take them all down, and in the bag he had gotten his Chop House cheddar burger in, everything was gone. Like everything was just crinkled up. She hopped up on top of the counter, on top of the refrigerator, and ate the Whataburger right there and left all the bags and then just jumped down. This dog is a rogue. I raised
Is that the go-to burger at Whataburger for you?
Oh, it used to be when they had it down here. That Chop House cheddar burger, that thing was, that was deadly. That was deadly.
I've got a Whataburger right across from Trey's, so every once in a while after work, I'll be like, "Yeah, let me pop over there." So, yeah, I love me some Whataburger. Ain't no doubt about that.
I'll tell you what stuck with me, Travis, is for whatever reason, I'll be going through my day and just start cracking up at the story you told me about Ubering.
Oh yeah.
And like I'll just be doing something. I'll be plotting out a video, and I'll just look up and I'll be like, "That dude's a genius! Like that guy is brilliant."
Hey, you know, thinking outside the box.
Oh, you tore the box. Like what did Lil Bow Wow say in Tokyo Drift? I don't just think outside the box. I tear it up.
I tear it up. Oh man, I know Nego, the designer of Bathing Ape. He's got a lot of friends, obviously, you know, have like owning Bathing Ape, has a lot of friends in hip hop. So he made an album that's just called I Know Nego, and it's just all of his buddies. So like Pharrell's on it, and like Clips, and like Fabulous is on it, maybe like just all these different artists. But the Teriyaki Boys are on it. So the Tokyo Drift soundtrack by the Teriyaki Boys. I was like, we were listening to it on the way to Oklahoma City for meetings the other day, and I saw Teriyaki Boys on there, and I was like, what? I can't believe they're on there. My business partner looked at me and goes, who the hell are the Teriyaki Boys? I was like, they did the Tokyo Drift song. Oh man, we've got some deep cuts in here.
Deep
with the Tokyo Drift.
And out of here. I do want to get y'all's. I meant to ask Josh. I completely forgot about it, so I'm gonna have to talk with him separate. Where do y'all? You know, Travis, you brought up Tennessee, or you brought up South Carolina, and I'm really interested to see what they do. But Tennessee right now is making some moves, and I know this is an OU pot, but like, we can't ignore some of the splashes they're making right now.
Yeah, Jimmy Haslam paid $5 million for a quarterback. I recently, I might have to check my text, but he just made for Tate and Ennis. I think he made a package offer for $3 million. Haslam,
you saw it, but the Tony Mitchell, kid who's born from Florida, lives in Alabama right now. They just posted today that Tennessee has now made their way into his top group. And with the way they're doing money, that's a real thing.
Well, that's the thing that, a lot of people talk about, NIL, you got it. I mean, the parity question, right? We all talk about the parity question. So it's like, well, will NIL create more parity? And everybody said, well, Alabama's just going to buy all the players. They already have all the talent. Georgia's going to do it. And then Texas is going to do it, but they've always had the talent anyways. They just squander it. A&M, they're going to get talent. They're going to squander it again. And so you have these situations where in your mind, you're like, okay, that's still the same amount of parity we had. But there's two schools that I'm watching, and I might throw a third in there. But the two schools that I'm watching to really flip the script on their fortunes by spending a fortune is Arkansas and Tennessee. Because Tennessee,
I love that.
Tennessee with Haslam has now proven he shelled out $230 million guaranteed to Deshaun Watson, then turned around and gave $5 million to a high schooler. And then he's paying out millions to wide receivers. When wealthy people, they don't like being wrong. They don't like being embarrassed because they rarely are. So when you have the opportunity to say, oh, I can now pay players, all you buddies that were laughing at me at cocktail parties, yeah, we're going to see about this. So, I mean, they'll go out and buy all the whole game has changed. Tennessee would have never been in the running for these 5 stars that they've already been getting.
Yeah, you think they're going to get Nico Iamaleava off of the players that were after him, right? Like Saban.
Kid. I'm not saying that Tennessee is going to win the national title next year.
Exactly.
I'm saying that we're seeing a trend now that they're willing to pay literal millions of dollars to not look like idiots. That's dangerous. If you get an ego-driven guy with unlimited funds like the Haslams have, then you're eventually going to get somebody in there. Again, they're going to buy defense. They're going to buy it. We're seeing it now. Like I said, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 4 years from now, but they're one to watch. You know who else fits the bill as egotistical, unlimited money with that has been getting made fun of a lot is Jerry Jones. So
you and I talked about this, yeah.
When you look at Jerry Jones, the Walton family, the Tyson family, all that at Arkansas, I mean, they have the ability. It's the difference is they got Sam Pittman with that as well, and I'm a big believer in Sam Pittman.
Same,
but my sister went to Arkansas. I've been to a lot of Arkansas games. Love Arkansas, but the money in Northwest Arkansas right now is insane.
Yeah,
so
you
get that money. You get that money, and you get Sam Pittman as a recruiter and everything. Then the other one obviously is Oregon. The Phil Knight checkbook, and not only the Phil Knight checkbook. Kayvon Thibodeau talked about this, which I think some people took it as him just not loving football. Is Oregon went out and he had that I think it was during the national title game where he kind of did like sit down and kind of did like a simulcast type situation. He's like, right when I went to Nike, I knew that I would forever have a job with Nike if I needed it. Phil Knight told me, whoever told me, if I come here, he's like, I can go get a job with Nike right out of college and be taken care of, whatever, right? Like it's different when your sport or your money is Nike money. It's different if you made your money on grocery stores or if you made your money on shipping or, you know what I mean? It's not sexy like Nike. I mean, Nike has been the sports standard for decades now. I mean, they have been the standard. So when you have that ability and Oregon is now all bought in, I think we all saw when Josh Connerly last minute commits to Oregon over USC, and USC thought they had him.
They thought, yeah.
And they asked, so, what was your closing pitch? They said, look, we're a bunch of SEC guys that are now out in Eugene. He said we're bringing the SEC out there. So we're the only program out west that is like the SEC. We're the only program that is going to play like it, that's going to recruit like it. And it was obviously just a shot at USC. But, I mean, I would do it too. I mean, they stared him down after they dunked on him and said, look, I mean, Lincoln Riley, it's cute. You got all these little gadget, wide receivers and, the Raleigh Browns of the world, but we're going to get this Nike money to go get these 5-star offensive linemen.
And I don't know if y'all saw a year ago. I mean, literally at this point, a year ago, right? I did a video on Connerly Jr. and I was like, I really dove deep in the video talking about like some of his reps and stuff. That kid is so talented, man. Like I was upset that Bama wasn't like further in contention for him because that kid right there has got such a high ceiling. He can play inside, he can play outside, like whatever you want him to do. Super advanced footwork for someone of his age. I mean, just like really solid stuff.
Yeah, I just think as far as down the line, and like you said, we're seeing it with Tennessee right now. They may not compete next year. I mean, they won't compete next year in the sense that we talk about competing. When we talk about competing, we mean for a national title. They won't be competitors next year by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't feel like when it's coming from one place, like a Haslam, or even if it's a Jerry Jones or something like that, you don't run into the issues that Texas does necessarily. First of all, Knoxville isn't Austin. There's no doubt about that. But also, you don't run into, hey, I have 15 millionaires that all are giving me money, so they all want access and they all want influence, and they're going to go nuts over the eyes of Texas, or they're going to go nuts over Ellinger. They're going to go nuts, whatever, right? So, like, if you have one guy, that's only one guy you got to give access to, and that's the guy that literally not just paid the buyouts or paid the salaries or sponsored a building. He gave you ingredients. He gave you the 5-star. He gave and said, "Hey, work with this. Work with this." So, with that, I think it's going to be vastly different than Texas for those two reasons. The spread of the influence isn't as great as it is at Texas, and then also Austin. We heard the Texas defensive lineman say, "Yeah, guys are too worried about going out on 6th Street and chasing women, and they're too worried about that than coming." He said, "What have we done? What are we trying to build on? We've been a losing program for a decade." And I've always said Austin, LA, Miami. Like everybody says, "Oh, it's going to be so easy to recruit there. That city's so much fun." Yeah, you know what? That's the thing. Tuscaloosa, Athens, Norman, South Bend, Clemson, all these places, like
What to do?
they don't have pro teams or anything. Like they don't have like beaches and whatnot. Like, but their trophy cases are full, and their spring games are full because that was the biggest self-own. That was the biggest self-own of all time. USC people saying, "Yeah, of course we didn't go to the spring game. Look at all this stuff there is to do in LA." It's like that's exactly our point.
Yeah, that's not the argument you were looking for. Like,
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. As a Bama fan, we didn't have good attendance, but at least they almost canceled the spring game. The weather was so bad. So I can sit there and be like, thank God, like there's some reason.
I mean, we sat through a tornado watch, but I mean, I get it. Some of us are built different.
For y'all. Like that was wild. But it's interesting you brought up Miami. I had written down, I have all the 3 teams you mentioned and had no Miami because they're a team with Mario Cristobal there, someone who's regarded as an excellent recruiter. You're talking about an organization that seems like they would have no problem funneling in money, but I think you make a great point about all the outside distractions. It takes me back to when I was coming out of high school, growing up in Gainesville, Texas on a horse ranch. I mean, I didn't have internet until I got to college. I got accepted to USC and I was thinking about going, right? I got accepted, had some scholarship. I realized then and there being a small town kid from Gainesville, Texas, living on a horse ranch, I wouldn't be able to make it out in USC. I'd go wild. I wouldn't be worried about class. I'd be worried about the beach, LA, everything else.
Yeah.
And so to your point, like that's a real point. Understanding that there are these distractions and what these distractions mean on the long end.
Well, and I think even now, like we're looking at kind of the look at me era, the Instagram era. You go onto any beach now, or you go to the Eiffel Tower, or you go anywhere, and you just look around, and everybody's just trying to get photos of it. They're not. I mean, they're trying to get just selfies. They're not. They're not. It's very much look at me, look at what I'm doing. So now that we've entered into an era like that, and now you put those people in those big cities, like they're going to be doing everything they can to flex on their Instagram, not do that. I mean, Miami has been okay. So they I think they've had 18 seasons in the ACC. How many double digit win seasons have they had in that time? Off the top of your guys' head, out of 18 seasons, how many?
Not near as many as they should.
One.
Yeah, I didn't know
One.
it was that. Jeez, I didn't know it was that low. I was gonna say 3.
No, one. And that's what's crazy is obviously for part of that, Clemson has been good, sometimes great, but not 18 years of it. So that's where you look at people are saying, oh, it's so easy to recruit to Miami. Who wouldn't want to go to Miami? That's the point. That's the point. And also
has to keep kids there too.
Yeah.
Well, and that's been the question, right? Everybody that talks about recruiting or next big teams, it's been so long that everybody says whoever locks down the state of Florida, whether it's Florida State, Florida, or Miami, somebody's going to do it first. But I think, what was it, 2 years ago? I think it might have been 2 years ago.
They only landed like 3 or 4.
But 2 years ago, I think it was like one of the first times ever that no school from the state of Florida was ranked at the end of the season, or it might have been it might have been last year. So, anyways, it was recently where all 3 teams were unranked, and that's outrageous. You're not going to win recruiting like that. I mean, Bama and Georgia, and I mean, heck, even Ohio State and OU and stuff, they've been going into Florida and taking everybody out. I mean, Clemson was doing it. From IMG, Venables had great ties into that school, still has great ties into that school. So I just don't believe in any team in a major market. And I realize that's super general, but I don't think in today's era a team in the major market.
Yeah, I think your logic carries over. It's been tried and true, and I mean we can talk about USC having made runs. We can talk about Texas having made a run. We can talk about Miami's runs, but like history since then has proved that as college football shifts, that shift isn't helping those big market teams in the manner that many people may have thought it would have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they say, well, if you're in a big market like LA, there's so many more opportunities for NIL. I mean, yeah, I guess, but you can get on a HVAC billboard in Norman because you're the biggest star there. You know what they got in LA? A lot of athletes, a lot of pro athletes, a lot of actors, a lot of spokespeople, like that actually are spokesmodels for a living. They don't have to worry about their brand being tied to a sport or a team that nobody watches, anything like that. Like, it's just, there's the Haslams of the world, the Joneses of the world, the collectives and everything like that. Those will always overpower these major market opportunities that they think are there, because that's the thing. It's a major market. There's more opportunities, but there's more people there. That's why the opportunities are there. It's a chicken and egg type situation. People went there because there's more opportunities. There's more competition.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we've appreciated the response you guys have had and being in here. It was great to have Josh on for the time we got him on, and as always, good to have my buddies Trav and Ty on here. Man, we appreciate you guys. And I appreciate you two doing this with me. And Trav, obviously, you're my partner in crime, and so I appreciate you coming on. And when you're ready and willing, man.
Man, I always just appreciate the invite. You know me. You just let me know, and I'm here.
Yes, sir.
We got any 7-on-7s
well,
coming up, Ty?
What's up?
Are there any 7-on-7s coming up?
Ooh, I haven't even checked. I know that the Rivals camp was a few weeks ago. I went to go to that, but ended up not because I was so sunburned from the Dallas pylon 7-on-7 that, oh man, it was bad. I was peeling for like 3 weeks, and then that UFC fight was that night, so I just ended up watching the UFC fight. But I'll have to get on again and check. I'll message my buddy and see what he knows about, and then get with you because we need to hit something up.
Perfect. Yep. I'm around the table, Oklahoma edition. So
There you go. There you
all right,
go.
we'll let everybody go to bed. Everybody hop in. We got the OU Rumors and News returning at 8 tomorrow. I will be heading on over to the Coach's Caravan for a little bit, hour and a half before popping over to that. Back when we were in our heyday of OU Rumors and News, you couldn't schedule them. Now you can schedule them. So we've already got, I think, like 500 people RSVP'd or something like that to start. So we'll see if we can pop a quick 1,000 to start. So anyways, see y'all over there. And
That's right now, right?
no, it's tomorrow at 8.
Tomorrow? Okay. I thought
tomorrow
it was
at 8 o'clock. Yes,
Tomorrow
sir.
at 8.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Boomer.
Hey, that's right. See you guys.